Thank you for calling Peer Counseling. This is Vanessa. How may I help you?
Peer Counseling, this is Jim.
Peer Counseling at the William Way Center in Philadelphia is a free counseling service for the LGBT community and those with LGBT issues. Counselors are peers, and they assist with everything from coming out to loneliness, relationships, and other issues that affect members of the LGBT community and their concerned allies. They also give referrals to appropriate organizations as needed. No appointments are necessary. Clients just need to call or walk in and ask to speak to a counselor. This has proven to be an invaluable service to scores of people in the community, providing a haven for those who may have no one else to talk to and leaving them with a lasting therapeutic effect.
So people call in about all kinds of things, but I think generally it's like a feeling of people who are they're looking for connection. I think that's like a big thing, is people who are isolated, and they just don't know where to turn.
I have had some callers at Peer Counseling where they have said, they started to come out, they started dressing and trying to live not full-time, but living in their gender identity, and just, the remarks they get, the remarks they get or the snares they get in public, were a little overwhelming to them.
I've talked to men who have been married and then come out and feel the family treated them differently once they became a couple with someone. Not when they came out so much, the family accepted them as, oh yes, they're gay. But when the family realized that they had a partner, then they became sexualized.
Well, I'd say most people who call that are struggling with their sexuality don't like the label, period. They'll say, I think I might be gay, I'm not sure, and I understand that completely.
I've definitely had a few calls, like people who, like if their parents walk in, they have to hang up really quickly, or like definitely one kid who was like isolated and lived outside of the city.
The comment I get most regarding being trans, whether it's transsexual or cross-dresser or anywhere in the transgender umbrella, is from my clients that it's reassuring that they're not alone. My
biological mother, kind of feels a disconnect, especially when you're older and you come out, because you aren't, like, she used to bring home an advocate, and she's 20 years older than the people that are in those magazines. And so I feel like I get a lot of those calls. Not younger kids, but a lot of people who have come out when they're 40 or have had a same-sex relationship outside their marriage or whatever it is, and they don't understand these feelings that they're having.
I talked to like an older woman who was like just starting to date again, and none of her friends were gay, and so she just was, she was like going through some relationship troubles, but she just didn't have a support network of people who would understand like what she was going through, and so like it's this place to turn when you're not sure.
Some of the main concerns for the overall about trans clients are they going to be accepted when they come out? Is their job going to allow them to keep working when they come out? Is their spouse and family going to accept them for who they are? Which is a little bit different than being accepted, because when I say accepted, that's really like an overall acceptance as a societal whole, but that's not as important to most people as being accepted by their family, whether it's a husband or wife or life partner, as well as children if they're in that scenario, as well as parents accepting them, which is a little bit more important, because the family support system I've found through just talking to other people like myself that are transsexual and transgender is a lot more important and a lot more successful for us as people when we come out and start to live our lives than it is if society accepts us as a general.
I think a lot of men have trouble in the workplace, that a place where they've been a long time and been perceived as a straight man with a family, who now come out, and whether it's their own notion or it's palpable that now they're perceived as a gay man, so they feel they have to butch it up a little bit, act more like a man at work, so people think they haven't changed any.
So some of the reasons that people call us if they're in a domestic violence situation are the we're kind of like a neutral party. So if you haven't admitted that you're in a situation that is abusive yet, it might make more sense that you call us first because you're asking for relationship advice, and then we refer you to, we refer that client to a domestic violence organization. Another reason might be that you're just concerned, like if a client might be concerned that if they contact one of those organizations, like their relationship isn't going to be understood, or that their relationship could be like confused in some way, or they're just not sure if this is like a gay friendly organization or not. So they might just not be sure, so they come to us first.
Compared to my trans women friends of color, or being African American as a trans woman who has a Caucasian or white appearance, I have noticed that I get more job offers than them at a higher rate of salary or pay. I've also noticed that my opinion is a little bit more respected than theirs just because of the quote unquote white privilege that comes with me.
I have two mommies, one who has always identified as a lesbian and one who has never identified as a lesbian. My biological mother was married to my father, and that did not work out. And it wasn't because she came out, it was just because it just didn't work out. And then, she hooked up with my other mom, and they've been together for now, I think it's 35 years almost. They just got married 2 years ago. And the reason I had come originally to become a peer counselor was because I had done a lot in the LGBT community, worked at film festivals. I did a lot of stuff with AIDS Fund, AIDS Walk, all that kind of stuff. And I just wanted a more personal connection.
Well, my whole life I was pretty much confused and thought I was weirder than everybody else, only because I'm a little bit older, becoming from the Gen X generation, that we didn't have the internet at our fingertips. So I really didn't know much about transsexuality or transgenderism until my mid-20s. And once I realized that people aren't really born that way, but we can transition to that, I sort of accepted myself, but not completely. And then it wasn't until my 30s that I fully accepted my transsexuality.
Yeah, before I came to peer counseling, I was actually married for 20 years to a woman, raising a family. And coming to peer counseling was sort of part of that process. I found that there were very few avenues that I found that I talked to other people that were in my situation, even though I found many after that. But for me, peer counseling was sort of giving back to the community a voice that wasn't there when I needed someone to talk to.
I guess I knew, like, in high school, just, some friends that I had and kind of meeting people who are trans and queer, and starting to, like, feel attraction towards female friends, and kind of, like, and maybe even before that, like, there were things just in my, like, as a kid that I didn't realize. Like, maybe I thought they were just, like, a normal part of growing up, but, like, that were where I was, like, attracted to my female friends, or, like, wanted to like, be close to them in ways that maybe, like, young girls, like, aren't, or something like that. Anyway, but I don't think I ever would have labeled it as queer or gay or whatever until, like, I think it was still very foreign, like, oh yeah, that's a thing that other people are, but not me. And then, yeah, mostly in college, I think, was my coming out.
I was not allowed to tell. No one knew. Nobody at school knew. I would have what I called the questions. So whatever the equivalent is now, just like, oh, so do you watch Ellen? Do you like Ellen? Do you think Ellen's nice? Because that would be sort of like my gauge to see if they are even remotely responsive to Ellen, or whoever was the popular celebrity at the time. Because most people didn't know anyone who's gay, and I would never grow up with anyone else who was in a same-sex relationship. There was one out person in my high school, and they were beaten every day.
There was one client he was considering, like, coming out at work, and we, like, really teased out some of, like, his options and, like, the pros and cons, and like what kind of like steps that he should take. And I think that's a strength of peer counseling too, is that it is goal oriented. So if somebody comes in, we're not just asking like, how do you feel about this? It's like, all right, let's problem solve. Let's put it out on the table. Like, who are your allies at work? Who's not your ally? Like, what are the situations? Who can you talk to? Like, what's the environment? And really like teasing it out and then making a decision. Like, okay, actually maybe let's wait like a couple months and then you can tell this person. And then like a month later you'll tell this person, or, something like that. So I think people have thanked me for that, like just saying like, oh, okay, yeah, like I don't feel like I have to make some big decision now. Like now that we kind of talked about this more, like maybe I can give it more time.
I think that my clients seem to benefit from our sessions because I can physically see them. Like in the beginning, they tend to be very tightly wound. They're very anxious. But you can actually see them sort of take a deep breath. And I actually will sometimes make them take a deep breath. I'm like, why don't we just sit here for a minute and just take a deep breath? And even just doing that little thing seems to really help them. And also, I asked them, I said, how are you doing? Do you feel better? Is there something else you want to talk about? I always check in, because just because they seem okay and they want to give the right answer, they may not be feeling okay. And I always check, and I'd say 80% of the time, they say, I feel so much better just to have talked to anyone. Or sometimes they'll say, I haven't told anyone ever about this thing, about coming out or wanting to transition or whatever it is. And you can just hear it, or you can physically see it, and it's an amazing. It is about them always, but sometimes it's a little bit about you, because no matter how crappy your day has been that day, if you know that you've helped one person, it does make you feel a little better too.
Peer counseling is an anonymous service that provides 8 free sessions per year. Though basic demographics such as race and gender are collected, you do not have to provide any identifying information. So if you would like to access the peer counseling services at the William Way Center, call between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time at 215-732-TALK. That's 215-732-8255. Or if you would prefer in-person one-on-one sessions, then come to the William Way Center at 1315 Spruce Street and request to see a counselor. The peer counseling services at the William Way Center. We're here for you.